Merhaba sevgili Çip TV izleyicileri. Bugün yine Türkiye'den çok uzak bir noktadayız. Los Angeles'tayız. Blizzard Entertainment'ın kampüsündeyiz, arkamda görmüş olduğunuz gibi. Hearthstone'un en son güncellemesi Whispers of the Old Gods'ı lansmanı için buradayız. Hem Çip online adına hem de Level Online adına lansmanı buradan takip edeceğiz. Gördüğünüz gibi şu an Blizzard kampüsündeyim. Çok büyük bir kampüs. Çok eğlenceli bir kampüs. Birazdan içeriye geçeceğiz. Lansmana katılacağız. Daha sonra da oyun yapımcılarından birini yakalarsak sorularımızla onları ileteceğiz. Röportajımızda sizlerle tekrar buluşturacağız. Şimdilik görüşmek üzere.
Now I've got a tale to tell you of the ones from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old gods.
It was basically as soon as we had the design that we wanted Cthulhu and a bunch of cards that interacted directly with Cthulhu, and we were leaning towards that as one of the pillars of the set mechanically. That we said, look, if we're going to do this, I think it's going to feel like kind of bad if we don't just give away Cthulhu for free. And at that point, we said, okay, let's just do that. That's the plan.
Like the crack opening a pack and finding cool stuff inside is like such a great experience, right? So we really wanted it to feel awesome when you open Whispers of the Old God packs, and now you find cultist cards, you're like, oh yeah, I got Cthulhu. Like I already got 2 of those cultist cards. I'm going to make this awesome deck. It's going to keep getting better. So it's super exciting. I mean, obviously, they always come up with stuff that makes our lives harder when we build these things. It's always exceptions, right? Like we're always trying to do delightful surprise. That means more work for the team, but you know, it's cool. So keep it coming.
Yes.
Why did you decide to make it the Old Gods theme?
Why Old Gods?
And how did you get there?
This is a theme that we had been kicking around for multiple years because Old Gods is a theme that is maybe half explored in other Warcraft games, and we're excited about exploring new territory with Hearthstone. We made up a lot of new characters for the League of Explorers adventure, and that worked out great for us. And so when we were thinking about the myriad of ideas that we could have gone with for this expansion, Old Gods kept popping up. You know, awesome giant minions, creepy creatures, and exploring brand new territory, which is kind of too exciting for us to pass up. So.
I also really love the idea of kind of like bizarro versions of things, you know, like Mario, Wario, or like in Star Trek, there's like the mustache version and the good guys. So that was really fun to explore. It's like, what would be the mirror universe versions of Anti-Killbot or some of these other guys, and that's been really awesome to explore.
Yes.
When you first showed us that trailer with some of the new cards, one of the things you said is, keep in mind this is all with the new standard format.
Yeah.
What were some, I guess, of maybe the card designs or type of cards that you were allowed to print safely because of this? I mean, like, was this standard format always something in your mind when you were designing Whispers of the Old Gods?
Yes. It wasn't. They happened kind of simultaneously to each other. So most of that stuff happens in the balancing phase of the project. So we design just a bunch of awesome cards, and then sometimes those cards we come out and say, hey, we can't make this because you win on turn 1. Or from an empty board on turn 3. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually, I forgot about that other card or this other thing. Now, we still care a lot about wild balance, so we're still in some ways hampered by we don't want to do, not hampered is the wrong word, but we don't want to just make cards that are awful for Wild but totally fine in Standard. So we have a different tolerance for the power level there. So we still think about Wild, we still think about Standard, but they're just kind of different tolerances.
Yeah, I think when we talk about like keeping Standard in mind when we talk about Whispers of the Old Gods, it's just more about the fact that now that they're like Whispers of the Old Gods in Standard is going to be a larger portion of the card base that you can play in that format, right? So the cards you're going to see are going to see more play, and they're going to have much more impact. So really, that's how we want you guys to keep Standard in mind. Obviously, there will be all these other combos and cool stuff you can keep playing and keep trying in Wild if that's the way you want to play.
Yes.
What about the 3 other old gods? Are they going to be similar, like support cards which will buff or somehow enhance them? Can you talk a little more about the other guys?
I mean, so yeah, there are 4 old gods total, but and we're going to be talking more about the other 3 over the next couple weeks, and they're really exciting. But there isn't,
Cthulhu has the most support from other cards in the set. But in general, with the old gods, we tried to build them in a way that would inspire you to build a deck around them. Yes, sorry. You're next.
What can you tell us about the competitive format of the spring season for prelims?
As far as like Standard and Wild?
Just on Standard.
I don't know exactly what the plan is for that, but my understanding is once Standard goes live with the expansion for Whispers of the Old Gods in late April, early May, things are switching over to that format for esports.
Yes, because that's what's going to be live. We'll be playing in that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, you were next.
Are you able to have several old gods in the deck?
When we get to the other old gods card releases, I think that will be obvious. But I don't want to talk too much about the other old gods. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Going on the same track, are you about the spring preliminaries? For the winter preliminaries, it sounded like, for the lack of a better format, we're gonna play Conquest 4 decks 1 ban. Have you thought any more of that? Like, is that kind of format, like the match format, gonna change for future seasons?
I don't think that's currently planned to change, but I know that the esports team and the members of Team 5 who are focused on that are always talking about whether that's right or if there's other formats that we should be exploring. So I don't know that will never change, but I don't think it's currently planned.
Sounds good.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
You started talking. Go for it.
So,
you can. All right.
So just to tie in the
Muscle
question
your way
about,
in.
about the formats about the Whispers of the Old Gods, because Whispers is a new expansion that's coming, but it's also really important that some of the cards in the classic set are being looked at. So, are we going to know which cards are getting looked at before we start seeing more cards of the Whispers of the Old Gods, or is it coming maybe in the...
We're going to announce the changed cards very close to the launch of the expansion.
Okay.
So we'll have announced most of the set, if not all of it, before we announce the...
What's the perception? Like, if we see a new card that's from Whispers of the Old Gods, we can get excited because of some interactions with the cards that are in the classic set, let's say.
Yeah.
And then actually, we might get disappointed that the card's being changed and it won't work the way we think.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. I think in general... and this is just a kind of a personal feeling about this, is that once we announce a nerf, it feels extra bad to lose to those cards. For me, like when I know about whatever nerfs are coming before you guys do, and so when I get
the burden of knowledge.
When I get Warsaw Commandered over and over again, knowing that I'm going to change that card at some point, it's even more frustrating. And so my goal is to marry that announcement as close as possible to the actual change, so that it's a little bit like, is this card too powerful? Blizzard hasn't confirmed whether or not it is yet, so maybe it isn't, or maybe it is. Let's continue discussing it. But once you know for sure it's changing, then it's I think even more frustrating to lose to those types of cards.
Okay.
Yes.
I just really didn't quite get the answer to the question about having multiple old gods in one deck.
We just. I don't want to answer the question because we haven't announced the.
We don't want to spoil
Yeah, it's. We have more to talk about with old gods over the next month-ish.
Okay,
So it's.
So it sounds to me like you are hinting at that there would be a good reason why you can't have.
I'm not hinting at anything. I just don't want to give away any information about what is left.
Just overall, we're not going to be talking about any new cards beyond what you saw today.
Yeah, right.
So try to mess us up. I don't want Lindsay to jump out.
Yes.
Hi. So I had a very similar question to what Minch asked, because I think it's very important for the press and the pro players and the players in general to evaluate the cards during this when the spoilers are coming up, right? So you said that you will be announcing the nerfs closer to the release of the expansion, right? But we'll be starting to see spoilers right on the bat from
Yes. Yes. So you will see most of the expansions, new cards before we announce the changed cards. Your implication is that you will be able to correctly evaluate which was the old cards without playing them, which.
A big chunk of the cultural thing about card games, like there's always a ton of articles about.
Yes, but it's speculation, and you guys will still obviously be able to speculate both about what cards you think will be changed and whether or not the new cards will be good. In practice, very little of the speculation ends up to be spot on. Obviously, if we could just look at a card and say, oh, it's exactly this good, we wouldn't need a balanced team, and it wouldn't be that fun to play card games because you would just know what the best deck is immediately. So it'll still, I think, be fun for you guys and for the public to try and guess how good cards will be and what the environment will look like. But I do think it is more fun to play in an environment that isn't obviously wrong because we've said these cards will change because they're too powerful or we want them to change for other reasons. But yes.
My main question, that was a follow-up to this, was are you planning on introducing a schedule of nerfing cards or changing cards in the future?
Oh, sure.
To have a changes. Always change the meta game, even if you're not introducing a new expansion, right? Because it feels like card games need to be, especially in digital medium, need to be ever changing the format. Need to have that.
So I think it's in general important to be conservative with changing cards because the metagame changes sometimes quite dramatically, and if we did like some games do like 2-week balance patches where every 2 weeks they come in and nerf the best things and buff the worst things, but the metagame changes more frequently than that for card games. So also it causes quite a bit of disruption, right? If your battle cruiser moves 2% slower in StarCraft, it doesn't really feel like StarCraft has changed wildly, but if we change a number on a card you play every day, it's a huge difference to how you're thinking about the game. So it's just the cost to nerfing a card I think is quite high for us, which is traditionally why we've been so conservative. That and sometimes it's not warranted. Obviously, when things get very bad, we do step in and nerf cards. But I don't think that the fact that we're changing so many cards with Standard should imply that we are changing our stance on nerfing going forward. The goal with the nerfs that we're doing now is to make sure that Standard is a dynamic environment. We really want Standard to be changing when new expansions are released.
I'm interested in the whole concept of making these bizarro cards, or these cards that are kind of like the new ones but different. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it seems like a really clever way to almost reuse or re-see a mechanic that was really positive and like really good, but like make it feel new and like unique. I guess my question is, how much of that maybe like problem of, we would really love if we just had another version of Loot Hoarder, but it's kind of boring to print another Loot Hoarder. So, like, how much was that inspired, I guess, by like this decision to say, well, what if they were just corrupted? Like, was this just a way to?
It definitely started from a flavor perspective when we started looking at what is Whispers of the Old Gods? What does it mean? We had a bunch of kind of buzzwords for us, like, okay, corruption is like the big thing, right? And not and big monsters, right? These are things that when we think, what are we going to build? What is this set going to feel like? These things just kind of started cropping up, and so we, have there's corrupted versions of lots of cards, but it started mostly as just corrupted, not specific Hearthstone stuff, but just corrupted Warcraft stuff. And then very quickly we said, well, if we're going to corrupt this thing, Hearthstone has some reference for that type of thing now, right? If we're going to corrupt a heal bot, it should do something that you expect heal bots to do. There should be some link between those. And then it really started to fuse together. Let's not just corrupt generic Hearthstone or Warcraft characters, let's corrupt Hearthstone cards. And then we really started to have fun. We just went down the list. What would this look like corrupted? What would this look like corrupted? That's super fun. So this was one of the more fun parts of designing the set, was imagining these alternate versions of cards.
Yeah, and the focus was really, again, like on the flavor. It's not like we took a look at Antique Healbot and went, oh no, we need another card where you play it, you get 8 health back, right? And then, we got to fill that hole somehow with some other card. It was more like, okay, what would be the evil Bizarro twin version of Antique Healbot be? And then we do something that's totally opposite. So mechanically, they're totally unrelated. They're like almost mirror image of itself, right? So this is not about reprinting these cards or something. It's really more about us wanting to reimagine them in this kind of bizarro evil twin way.
I don't know how a knife juggler could get more evil.
Maybe he hits you. I don't know. We should print that card.
Right there.
Okay, so we haven't talked about the new tool that you're offering to the new players, which is like something like a deck helper.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about it?
It's called Deck Recipe.
Deck Recipe. Yeah. The blog just went live like an hour ago or something, so you can read all about the details there. But basically, the idea is you're building a new deck. You can choose to either build it from scratch or pre-fill the deck with a recipe. And if you have all the cards, great. That deck, you can just build that deck. Otherwise, we'll build as much of the deck as you can. And then we've improved the deck helper functionality, so to suggest cards that are good in a vacuum. So it won't suggest cards like, oh, you're building this beast deck. What about this Murloc? It won't do that anymore. It'll just give you just some great cards for the mana cost that are good all around, that will just help make your deck better based on the ones that you already have.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question about adventure modes. So with the standard mode coming out, some adventures are not going to be playable. Are you planning on bringing them back somehow for new players to just check out the adventure for free, maybe, or just to see the experience?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're looking for the cards that are in those adventures, you'll be able to continue to craft them and play with them in Wild. But you're talking more about the missions themselves, right? Yeah, we don't have any plans to announce yet, but we put a lot of hard work into it, and we love those adventures. We think it's the right thing to do for now for them to be removed from the store, but we might do some cool stuff with them in the future.
Yes.
I was wondering about the corruption mechanic or the cards. Is there going to be some kind of link with the regular cards? You have like the evil version of Healbot or Luthor. I'm thinking like something like similar to Shadow Forming Priest. Is there going to be some kind of mechanic where you play a regular Healbot and then you get corrupted one?
Well, yeah, I mean, so thematically they're like the evil twin of each other, but mechanically they're separate cards, totally separate cards. So you could have 2 copies of Loot Hoarder in your deck, and you could also have 2 copies of Polluted.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
Hoarder.
can you like
Hoarder.
transform them? In a way?
No, that is not part of the mechanic.
Okay.
They're separate cards.
Yeah, I think Loader was.
Yes.
So obviously I'm biased because I'm mostly about the esports aspect of Hearthstone, but my question is, how do you guys, when you design a new expansion, how do you guys approach the balance of the cards? Do you look at the competitive aspect of the game and say, let's not make this card because it's obviously like gonna change the competitive aspect of the game? Or do you okay, let me rephrase. What is more important for you guys? The casual audience or the competitive aspect of Hearthstone is also very important for you guys?
To us, they're equally important. And I think that's been the driving mission for Hearthstone, is make a game for everyone. And I think it's totally possible, right? We can make cards that appeal to people who really like tinkering with decks and trying crazy new ideas. We can make cards that really stress the decision making. They make it very hard to make the right decision. I watched a video recently with Amaz and Hafu doing an arena run, and just a Raven Idol had so many decision points in it, and they disagree. Amaz and Hafu disagreed violently on every step of the way, whether to mulligan it, whether to go minion or spell, which minion do you take after you choose minion, and those types of cards are really targeted towards the type of player who wants to make a ton of decisions and show their dominance over other players by making better decisions. So, and we make a lot of cards for all types of players. So we, our balanced team skews very heavily towards high-level esports level of play. So they're definitely looking at it from that perspective, but also they're really talented designers who are all making sure that we have lots of cards that are going to appeal to just the widest possible audience.
Just a quick answer to the finalize this. So I'm guessing the designers are testing it against the decks that are currently shaping the format that is currently.
Yeah, there's lots of types of testing. Obviously, there's decks that are currently strong, and so we need to test against those, and also what would those decks look like in a world with these new cards in it. But then also, they're building new decks and trying to break the format in new ways, and testing, what does the fastest deck look like? What does the slowest control deck look like? And those types of things. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That covers that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a question about keywords. We were discussing this a bit on the bus right here. So with League of Explorers, you introduced Discover, and Discover was very, very well received from the community as far as I could tell. And what I'm looking on there is like we have these evergreen keywords, like we have charge, we have taunt. Are you looking to if like a mechanic is like really, really well received? Are you looking at like eventually making like Discover a part of just like every set in a Hearthstone, or if you like introduce a mechanic like that, is it only gonna be like a League of Explorers mechanic, or?
I think it's a case-by-case basis, but there's definitely some cost to just inflating the overall keyword space, right? The worst-case scenario is you open a pack and every card has a different keyword on it. You just can't read the cards unless you've been around for a long time. So I think we have to be careful about that, but I don't think we're quite there yet. So we'll evaluate keywords and see if they make the game better, and we're not afraid to do that, I guess.
Yes, sweet.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any tavern roles lined up for the release of all cards that make sort of thematically?
We do, and it's freaking awesome, but can't really talk about it because it involves a card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I really...
Maybe when we talk about that card later on, we can talk about how we could do something really cool with that.
I screwed the whole team up. I was just laughing so loud.
But yes, there's definitely going to be some Tavern Brawls where you'll be like, oh my god. Actually, you look at some of these cards, you'll be like, oh my god, what if you made a Tavern Brawl out of that card? And we probably did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Merhaba oyun severler. Blizzard Entertainment kampüsünde Hearthstone'un yeni oyun güncellemesi Whispers of the Old God lansmanından biraz önce çıktık. Şu anda demo alanındayız. Oyunu deneyeceğiz. Ondan sonra da oyun yöneticisi Eric Ott ve oyun yapımcılarından Peter Wells ile kısa bir söyleşimiz olacak. Hazırladığımız soruları ona yönelteceğiz ve cevapları almaya çalışacağız. Oyunla ilgili düşüncelerimiz ve incelemelerimizi ise zaten biliyorsunuz, daha sonra Chip ve Level dergilerinde ve online sayfalarında bulabilirsiniz.
Actually, my first question is about the Whispers of the Old Gods. I have lots of questions about the Hearthstone, but we saw these updates, so we are very excited. We learn the details and we will write about it in our websites and magazines, but would you please tell us the key details about what we will have with these updates?
Sure. So Whispers of the Old Gods, it's about these horrible creatures that are corrupting Hearthstones. So underneath Azeroth, there's these 4 horrible things that have been lurking for a long time, for millennia basically, that they're so terrible and so large that they can't even come up to the surface. They mostly work through influence and whispers, and maybe a tentacle here or an eye stalk there, and that's how they're sort of influencing the world. And through their power, they've corrupted a bunch of the Hearthstone minions that you know and you love. You've seen Polluted Hoarder this morning, so you've seen they have this powerful ichor, this green ichor that gets into the mechanical units, and it corrupted the heal bot. And so there's these 134 new cards that we're coming out with that emphasize this theme of these powerful old gods with their awesome effects and their minions and their corrupting of power on the game. And one of the cards that you've seen is Cthulhu. He's one of the old gods. He's got this powerful effect that his followers make him stronger no matter where he is, if he's in your deck or your hand or no matter what. They're going to make him bigger, and then when he comes into play, he has an effect that's even more powerful depending on how many of these you've done. So Whispers of the Old Gods, it's going to shake things up. There's a lot of powerful cards, and it's going to change things.
Yeah, thank you. Now I can continue with the Hearthstone questions. Now we will see a standard mode in the future, maybe April or I don't know the exact date. But I will ask these questions because is this change for balancing the game between beginners and the experienced players? Why do you divide the game into wild and standard?
Sure, you want to?
Yeah, I'll take it. Sure. So the purpose of having this new standard mode is actually to serve a couple of different things. One of them is, as we continue to add more cards to the game, as a new player, if I come into this environment, I'm going to look at all of the cards that exist, into the past and picture yourself several years from now, and you're like, hey, I'm excited about Hearthstone, and you see 4 or 5 years of cards, going into the past, and you're like, that's too many cards. Not only would I have to understand all these cards, I'd have to acquire all these cards, and that's way too much. So we want to make sure that as a new player, you have the ability to, jump in. I didn't have to get all that many cards, and bam, I'm playing competitively. So that's sort of on one side of things. And then on the other side of things, we want to make sure that we have a metagame for all of our players, for the new players and for the hardcore players that's changing on a regular basis. And if you look at having a huge number of cards in play and we add an expansion, hey, we're going to add 50 or 134 new cards into play, if you already have thousands of cards, the impact that's going to have in the types of decks you're going to see is not going to be all that great. So by having this new standard format, it means that when we add, for instance, with the old gods, 134 new cards, because some of those old standard decks that you used to see have the cards that support them have rotated out, you're going to see a whole ton of new types of decks in the metagame. So it's going to be a much more dynamic place where the powerful decks are changing more regularly.
Yeah, I think the whole decks will change every 2 years, I think.
The plan is every year there's going to be a rotation like this. This year, the first year is the year of the Kraken, but in the future we'll have additional rotations with old cards leaving and creating this new set of cards that is the standard format for that year.
Don't you think that this changing cards will affect the players negatively? For example, every new player tries to gain the card decks in the experienced users. They play more to get that cards from the users. They see the experienced users' cards. Now they can all have the same decks, and how can I say? The beginners may lose their sensations to get the experienced users' card decks.
I didn't follow that entirely, so if you...
Sure. So I think there's a couple parts of that. I think Standard's going to be great for both experienced players who are going to love the fact that the metagame is changing frequently. Every new set release has a bigger impact on the metagame, so it'll change in larger amounts every time. And I think it's going to be great for new players as well, because new players will be able to invest in the classic set, which is going to stay... the classic and basic set is going to stay in Standard for this period and for the next year and the next year, and that's going to be great for them. And they can also, there's a smaller card pool. There are fewer cards that new players have to learn, and new aspiring competitive players also have a smaller card pool of cards they have to acquire in order to play in Standard. If they want to play in Wild, they can certainly craft those cards and they can still experience that in much the same way that players can now. And that gives people an option no matter which way they want to play it.
then they can craft the old cards.
Yep, the old cards are craftable for the same amount they are now.
But this means that they need more arcane dusts, I think, to craft.
It depends on how many of those cards you see. So the new packs are sticking to the same rarity scheme that the old ones do, so you're acquiring dust at the same rate. So if you were crafting, say you needed a new legendary, if you were crafting a new legendary from the new set now, it's similar to crafting a wild legendary in the future. So it's not significantly different in that sense. It is certainly true that you can't buy GVG packs, so you won't randomly open Dr. Boom if that's who you're looking for. But you can absolutely still craft it in pretty much the same way that you could now.
Okay, then I'll ask, are you planning to sell the arcane dusts, like the card decks, in the future?
We're certainly always evaluating what we're going to do in the future, but to the best of my knowledge, there's no plans to sell arcane dust. Arcane dust comes from arena runs, and it comes from disenchanting the cards that you've got. So there's great ways to get it right now.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then there's a questions coming to us from the community about the Hearthstone, so I will carry to ask them. They ask, are you going to what they said? Are you going to add different kind of game stamps in adventure modes besides 4-wing? I don't know what they mean, but I just...
So our adventures have definitely had different structures, and we're constantly evaluating what kind of structure is best to suit each of our adventures. Whether 4 wings is best, 5 wings, should they be the same size? In League of Explorers, one of the wings was larger than the other ones. We're constantly evaluating what's best for the game and just trying out new stuff. It's great to push Hearthstone in different directions and explore with what's possible.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, I mean, we're always paying attention to the community. So if the community is saying, hey, we'd love to see 3 wings or 5 wings or more or less or whatever, I mean, we're certainly always listening. So we love the dialogues that are going along or around like this, because it's super useful for us to sort of hear what people are interested in.
Okay, the question similar to this one. Besides the adventure modes and the new decks coming each year, is there a plan that a different kind of new game modes coming to Hearthstone, bigger updates?
Well, one of the reasons why we love our Tavern Brawl mode is because Tavern Brawl lets us try all kinds of stuff. I mean, I would not imagine that the community was expecting us to say, hey, we're going to have cooperative mode within Hearthstone, and we did it. And we continue to think of new ways that we can sort of break the mold and try things that are going to surprise the players. So you can expect that in Tavern Brawl there's going to be crazy new things coming where we break the game in interesting ways and surprising ways. Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to add one thing, but even right now, we're releasing a new game mode for Hearthstone. We're releasing standard mode. It's a big deal. So we're absolutely releasing new game modes for Hearthstone and doing cool things in that direction.
Okay, thank you. There's a different kind of question.
Sure.
Do you think that you have Hearthstone and the Heroes of the Storm? They both need more time to play, and do you think that they steal players from each other? For example, Hearthstone is your game, and on the other side, Heroes of the Storm is same game that they are going in parallel. And do you think that they may affect each other?
I hope they inspire each other, that players find Hearthstone and then they say, wow, this is awesome. Let's play some Heroes of the Storm. Or the other way around. Oh, this is Heroes of the Storm? I really like these characters. Uther's so cool. I really love these like Warcraft guys. Let's go play that card game that has the Warcraft guys in it. Or maybe let's go play World of Warcraft. My hope, and I think it's the case, at least for me and for people I've known, that you play one Blizzard game, you're like, this is fantastic. Let's play some of these other ones that I have these same experiences in and these same characters and that I know and love. So I hope it's less that they steal time from each other and more that they allow players to discover each other and experience them when they're in different moods or have different amounts of time available.
Okay. My last question is about a far future.
Okay.
You know the augmented
self-driving cars, flying cars, flying such
it's something like that.
Oh, sweet. Even better.
You know augmented reality.
Sure.
Like the Microsoft HoloLens or some kind of devices. And for me, it really suits the game like Hearthstone. That you pull the cards on your real desktop, and the cards come to alive with the augmented reality glasses, and it's a different kind of gaming experience. And
I'm a huge fan of VR, and I love playing with that technology. And I would be very surprised if a few years from now, if it isn't sort of a big deal. And certainly when it gets to that point, we're going to be interested in looking at it. But as sort of Peter was saying, don't have any plans to move on that right now. But it'll be exciting to see where VR takes us in the future.